Hi, I'm Megan and welcome to my kitchen. Today's What's for Dinner video is a little bit different than normal. Usually in these videos I share with you the meals we had the previous week, but this week we were out of town several days for my grandfather's funeral, and so this video is kind of a compilation of the past couple weeks, just the meals that we had at home. I did not film any meals while we were up in Kentucky. So I want to take just a second before I get into the video and just thank everyone so very much, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart, for all of your prayers and well wishes and condolences for our family. In case you didn't see it on Instagram or on my community post, my grandpa passed away last week. We'd had a surprise 90th birthday party for him the beginning of the month, and I'm so glad that we did that. He absolutely loved it. He just felt so loved and was able to see people that he hadn't seen in years, and it meant the world to him. But a few days, maybe about 3 days after his party, he started not feeling well. He had some sort of medical issue. We're still not sure what happened. They at first thought it was a heart attack or a stroke, but all the tests came back negative for that. But anyway, they took him to the hospital, and upon admitting him, they did the C-word test, and he did test positive. For a couple days, he was asymptomatic, but he went downhill with it very fast. He had a history of heart attacks and strokes, and his heart was failing, his kidneys were failing, and so his poor body was just beaten and couldn't fight it. So he passed away, and we had a beautiful service for him. So anyway, like I said, just thank you so much for your thoughts and prayers. I really appreciate it. All right, let's get into this week's What's for Dinner. For this first dinner, I made Copycat Bonefish Grill's Pan Asian glaze, and I decided to use it over salmon. I made this once a long time ago. This particular recipe is from Iowa Girl Eats. I'll have it linked down in the description box below. So we're going to get started by making the glaze. I'm going to add a little bit of oil to this sauce pot, and over about medium heat, I'm going to add in my grated ginger and allow that to cook for just maybe 30 seconds or a minute. Next, I'm going to add in the ketchup. Next, I'm going to add in the oyster sauce, soy sauce, water, and lemon juice. I'm going to whisk that together until it's combined really well, and then bring that to a bubble. Now, a quick note, the recipe does say to combine the ketchup, oyster sauce, soy sauce, water, and lemon juice in a separate bowl and then add it, but to me, I just find it's an extra step and an extra dish, so I just add everything to the sauce pot. So once we've got that to a bubble, we're going to reduce the heat to about medium-low and stir in the sugar and the honey. We're going to cook that for about another minute, remove that from the heat, and set that aside. Now, give this a little taste and adjust, things to your taste. I felt like it needed a little bit more sweetness, so I added in a little bit of brown sugar, and it was perfect. It was delicious. Now, at Bonefish Grill, which if you're not familiar with that, by the way, it's a chain restaurant. They mostly have seafood, but this Pan Asian glaze is one of their sauces, and you can pretty much get it on any fish that you want. So you can use whatever you'd like, shrimp, scallops, mahi-mahi, cod, whatever. I'm going to use salmon today. So what I've done is laid my salmon fillets on a parchment lined cookie sheet. You can use whatever seasonings you like. You could just do salt and pepper, but I decided to use some of this Red Lobster seafood seasoning. I found this at the Dollar Tree. So I'm going to season both sides, and then I'm going to pop my salmon into a preheated oven. I believe this was at 400 degrees, and how long you cook the salmon really depends on how thick it is and how you like your salmon cooked. I cooked mine for about 8 to 10 minutes. All right, here's what the salmon looked like at that point. And I'm going to take the glaze that we made and brush it over the salmon and then place this back into the oven for just a couple minutes or so. And here is what it looked like when it was done. You could broil this for a minute or two if you'd like. For one of the sides, I'm going to do some roasted asparagus. I just washed and trimmed it, laid it on this cookie sheet. I'm going to drizzle it with some oil, and then you can use whatever seasonings you like. I'm using some of the Kinder's, the blend, and then Buttery Steakhouse. I'm going to give that a toss and put that right into the preheated oven along with the salmon. For the other side, I'm going to make something I haven't made in a while, but I used to make it pretty often. It is brown rice with peas and mushrooms. It's from For the Love of Cooking. I'll have the recipe linked down below. This is really easy to put together. It's quick, and it's a great way to use up leftover rice. So in this skillet, I've got it over about medium heat. I'm going to add in some butter, and once that butter is melted, I'm going to add in my onions and mushrooms, season them with a little bit of salt and pepper, and then I'm going to cook those for about 3 to 5 minutes until they are slightly golden brown and tender. Next, I'm going to add in some frozen peas, give that a stir, and just cook that for a couple minutes. Next, I'm going to add in my cooked brown rice. Now, I just cooked this in my rice cooker. But like I mentioned earlier, this would be a great way to use up leftover rice. And I know the recipe says it's brown rice, but I'm sure you could use white rice as well. Once I've added the rice, I'm going to add in the soy sauce and give that a stir. Give this a taste and season it to taste with some salt and pepper. Now, we're not making fried rice here. We're just going to give this a stir and cook it for just a couple minutes so that everything comes together, and that's it. Like I said, super quick and easy. And to be so simple, this actually has pretty good flavor. This is really yummy. All right, so here are the finished plates. We've got this salmon. I did garnish it with some sesame seeds, but you don't have to. We have the asparagus, the brown rice with the peas and mushrooms, and this dinner was absolutely delicious. It was so yummy. Now, this dinner was the Super Bowl, so we did some snack foods. I'm going to start out by making some Rotel dip. I know pretty much you all know how to make Rotel dip. It's Velveeta and Rotel. But I've learned over the years that people add different things. So I just wanted to share how I did it this time. Every time I make it, I do it differently. I don't make it the same way every time. But to my crock pot, I added a can of Rotel. I'm going to add in some Velveeta that I've cubed up. Next, I had some cheddar cheese slices in my fridge I needed to use up, so I'm just going to chop those and add that. And then I know a lot of people add sausage to the Rotel dip, but my husband was wanting some Rotel, and sausage doesn't agree with him. But I had this turkey taco meat in my freezer. This is just ground turkey seasoned with taco meat that I had left over, so I thawed this. I'm going to add that. Next, just a couple ounces of cream cheese. And then this is totally optional, but I'm going to add in a couple drops of liquid smoke. And I like the smoked queso is really popular right now, but I don't have a smoker, so I'm just going to do that. And then add in a little bit of smoked paprika, garlic powder, and make this your own. Use whatever seasonings you'd like. You could also add in like jalapenos, onions, bell peppers, cilantro, salsa, black beans, corn, whatever you like. I'm going to cover this with a lid and cook this on high for 2 hours, but I did go in after the first hour, and this is what it looked like. I'm going to give it a stir and then cook this for another hour or so. You really just want to cook this until the Velveeta is melted. Here's what it looked like when it was done. I decided to add in just a couple tablespoons of cream. You could also do milk. You could just skip it all together if you're happy with the texture. So I'm going to stir that in and give it maybe 5 or 10 minutes just to warm that cream up, and it will be ready to serve up. This was delicious. So yummy. So for my other snack, I decided to do some hot honey barbecue chicken sliders. I'd made some hot honey barbecue chicken maybe a couple months or so ago, had leftovers, had it in my freezer, needed to use it up, so I thawed it. I'll link that video down in the description box below. I got it from Taylor Elmore. So what I'm going to do is in this pan, I'm going to add in some slider rolls. I'm using the Hawaiian rolls. Use whatever slider buns or little rolls you prefer. I am going to add the bottoms and then add a layer of the sliced cheddar cheese I've got on hand. In this bowl, I've got that hot honey barbecue chicken that I just warmed up in the microwave. I'm going to add a layer of that. Add some more cheese and the tops of the slider rolls. Now, this is a great way to use up leftover barbecue chicken or pork like I'm doing here. You can also make it. You could also buy the packages in the little containers, like in the deli section near the hot dogs and stuff. Make that quick and easy as well. But I'm going to cover this with some aluminum foil. I placed this into a preheated 350-degree oven, and I baked it for about 25 minutes. Now here's what this looked like when it came out of the oven, and I apologize. I thought I had footage of me doing this, but I don't know what happened to it. I just mixed together some melted butter and some of that hot honey, and then once these rolls came out of the oven, I brushed the tops with some of that hot honey butter. These little sliders were so delicious. They were amazing. They were so good. Now, I had a bunch of cheese and fruit and everything on hand that I needed to use up, so I just put together this charcuterie board. I'd also picked up some of the Reese's football shapes, so I added that and just a couple little picks to make it a little festive. I also made some of these crostinis. I've just been craving it. I've shared how I make this before. I'll find that video and link it down below. So easy. I just took a baguette, sliced it, toasted it up in the oven, and then added some softened honey goat cheese to it. I found that like for $2 at Kroger. It was marked down. Great deal. Then I added some fig jam, some prosciutto, a little arugula that I had on hand, and then drizzled it with some of the Trader Joe's balsamic glaze. Oh my gosh, these are delicious. The balsamic with the prosciutto, with the fig, with the goat cheese, it is just delicious. I highly recommend you give this combination a try. Finally, I had some frozen mini corn dogs that I've been meaning to use up, so I just cooked those in the air fryer. And then that was our dinner this night. We just snacked while we watched the game. We're not big football people, but we do like to watch the Super Bowl for the commercials, for the performance, and then honestly just for snacks. But that was our dinner this night. Really yummy. For dinner the next night, I made salad and macaroni and cheese. I had a ton of cheese that I needed to use up, and I've been wanting to try this creamy balsamic salad dressing. I'll have it linked down below. This salad dressing was delicious. Highly recommend it, and I'll definitely be making it again. So we're going to start out by making that salad dressing. To a mixing bowl, I'm going to add in some mayonnaise. Just use your favorite brand. You could also do like the vegan mayonnaise or avocado mayonnaise, whatever you'd prefer. Next, we're going to add in some balsamic vinegar. Not sponsored by Nashville Olive Oil Company. I just enjoy their products, but you could use whatever balsamic you've got on hand or you prefer. Next, I'm going to add in some Dijon mustard, and then garlic powder, brown sugar, Italian seasoning, salt and pepper. I'm going to whisk that until it's really well combined. Now, Salt and Lavender, she's who this recipe is from, by the way, she has a note on here. Some balsamic vinegars are sweeter than others, so she suggested starting out with like half the amount of sugar that the recipe calls for, and then giving it a taste and adding more. So once we've got that mixed really well, I'm going to do just that, give it a taste, and you can adjust. You can add a little more vinegar, you can add a little more mustard, a little more sugar, whatever you prefer. But once I've got this mixed up, I'm just going to place it into the refrigerator until I'm ready for it for dinner. Here's what I'm going to use for the salad. I've got some romaine lettuce, some cheddar cheese I just cut up, some tomatoes, sliced mushrooms, and cucumber I chopped up. All right, so here is the baked macaroni and cheese that I made. I've shared this several times before on my channel. I'll have one of the videos linked down in the description box below if you'd like to see how I make it. But this is so yummy, and it's easy to put together. All right, so here are the plates, or rather my plate. Gary ate a little bit later. We've got the salad and the macaroni and cheese, and the macaroni and cheese was delicious. I mean, how could you go wrong there? And then, like I said, we really enjoyed that salad dressing. It was delicious. This next day was Valentine's Day, and I had planned on making homemade sushi for my husband and I, but this day was just really stressful and emotionally taxing, and I did not have it in me to do anything for dinner. The morning of Valentine's Day, my mom had gotten a call from the nurses at Grandpa's hospital saying that he wasn't doing well and didn't have much time. So it was just a crazy day, and we just did hibachi takeout. I did steak and shrimp. My husband did chicken and steak, and of course we got the salad and the soups and fried rice with that. So that was our Valentine's Day dinner, and we have leftovers for lunch the next day. For dinner the next night, I tried a new recipe called Next Level French Onion Chicken. I saw this on Instagram. The lady's name is Dinner in321. I'll have it linked down in the description box below. Let me show you how I put this together. The oven is preheating to 350 degrees. I have sprayed a casserole dish with some cooking spray. I'm going to add in some sliced onion. Next, I'm going to add in a can of Campbell's French onion soup. then the beef broth. Next, I'm going to add in my uncooked long grain rice. I did rinse this. Now, I read through the comments on this recipe, and a few people said that it didn't turn out right for them. The rice didn't get cooked, but she suggested sticking to the recipe as written, which is to use long grain rice and to cover this really tightly with foil, and I followed her instructions, and it came out perfect for me. Next, I'm going to give the rice mixture a little stir, and then I'm going to add in my chicken thighs. You could also do chicken breasts, I'm sure. Now, I almost added a little bit of salt to this, but I hesitated because I knew there were several ingredients in here that had salt in them, and I'm glad I did. I felt like in the finished product, the chicken needed the teeniest, tiniest little pinch of salt, but that's something that's better, you know, for people to add at the end as they're eating it if they want a little more salt. So once I've got the chicken added, I'm going to add the pats of butter, and then the recipe called for, I believe, mozzarella cheese, but I had some Swiss cheese on hand that needed to be used up. And usually when you do French onion soup, you use Gruyere or Swiss anyway, so I just chopped that up. And once I've got the cheese added, I am then going to sprinkle over the Lipton onion soup mix, and that's it. You don't need to give it another stir or anything. You just want to really, really make sure you cover this tightly with foil to keep all of that steam in. We're going to place this into the oven, and it baked for an hour and 15 minutes. So here's what it looked like after that hour and 15 minutes. We're going to sprinkle on some fried onions and then pop this back into the oven for another 15 minutes or so. Here's what it looked like when it was done. I did allow it to sit for about 10 minutes before I served it. Here are the plates. So we've got some of the chicken and rice, and to go along with it, just did some simple sauteed green beans. I blanched them in some salted water and then cooked them with a little bit of butter and some minced garlic, salt, and pepper. This dinner was delicious. It was so good. I'll definitely make that chicken and rice bake again. It was so yummy. And I would recommend using the chicken thighs. I mean, you can use the chicken breasts if you'd like, but the chicken thighs, with as long as you're cooking this, they really stay tender and juicy. This was just yummy. It was so good. The next day, my husband and I headed up to Kentucky, and we were gone for several days for my grandpa's funeral. And like I mentioned at the beginning, I did not get any of our dinners while we were gone, which I do apologize, but I know you all understand. So the day that we came back, that night for dinner, again, was just kind of emotionally exhausted, and so I just made BLTs for dinner. That was also pretty much the only thing I had. I didn't have like any meat thawed. Tried to use up a lot of our fresh fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. Just cooked the bacon in the oven, and I personally don't like lettuce on my BLT most of the time, so I just had a BT. And then I like mayonnaise and a tiny little bit of barbecue sauce on our BLTs. I know that might sound weird, but it's delicious. And then I had some baby carrots. That was a little bit of the produce that I had left, and some ranch dressing, and that was my dinner this night, and Gary ate a little bit later for dinner. For the last dinner in this week's video, I made homemade sushi. I've shared how I make this before on my channel. I'll have that video linked in the description box below. It's really not that hard to make sushi. I was intimidated by it for years, but finally, maybe a year or two or so ago, I just decided to give it a try, and I thought, hey, if it turns out horrible, no one will know, but I can just turn it into a sushi bowl if I need to. But it's not actually that difficult. Rolling it does take a little bit of practice, but if you've made cinnamon rolls or pinwheels before, you can totally do this. So like I said, I'll have that video linked in the description box below. I highly recommend, if you like sushi, to give it a try. If you've never had sushi, give it a try. And I know a lot of people think, well, I don't like sushi. The thought of raw seafood kind of weirds me out. I didn't use any raw seafood in these rolls that I made. I used cooked shrimp, cooked crab, in parentheses, it's the fake crab, and then smoked salmon. So sushi doesn't have to be raw fish, so give it a try. All right, that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video, and again, thank you so much for your prayers and well wishes and condolences. Really, really appreciate it. If you liked this video, hit the thumbs up button below and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.